Welcome to our brief overview of Icao Annex 9 facilitation. We will go through chapters 1 to 9. Before we start, just a quick summary. It contains standard and recommended practices, SARPs, related to providing a frame of reference for planners and managers of international airport operations to simplify the procedures required to clear aircrafts, passengers, and cargo. Chapter 1, Definitions and General Principles. For definitions, it mainly talks about terminologies that I'll be using for the entire discussion. And also, there are a long list of definitions we can talk about, but apparently there is no time for that. And for the general principles part, mainly it talks about the standards and recommended practices that shall be applied to specific aircrafts operations. Also, the contracting states that will take care of the risk management and information technology to ensure minimum inconvenience and optimal security. This is the reason of when a performing aircraft procedures and clearing or releasing of goods, they must be done safely. Chapter 2, Entry and Departure of Aircraft. It states within this chapter every single precautions, modifications, system checks, document checks, and even sanitary checks are needed to ensure that no flight, especially in between flights of entry and departure, are all not delayed, keeping the scheduling consistency while ensuring each aircraft is ready for the next departure. For example, of standard and recommended practices needed are runway traffic management, luggage management, and sanitary management, which is especially useful these past few years. Chapter 3, Entry and Departures of Persons and Their Baggage. This chapter contains the procedures, requirements for the entry and departures of persons and their baggage and how the state should regulate and handle them. These requirements include passports, visas, embarkation or disembarkation cards, international certificate of vaccination, and other travel documents. The general purpose is for the clearance of persons entering or departing by air. Appropriate measures should be conducted in case of baggage separated from its owner. Chapter 4, Entry and Departure of Cargo and Other Articles. It sets down the custom rules and procedure that must be followed in order to expedite the release of products and cargo, whether for import or export, as well as its clearances carried out by the air transport. This compromises through checks of all cargoes as well as all requirements and data that must be handled by authorities in order for the items to be released or cleared. Chapter 5, Inadmissible Persons and Deportees. This chapter contains 4 parts, and part A talks about general information, B talks about inadmissible persons, C talks about deportees, and D talks about procurement of a replacement travel document, and in which it has certain regulations and recommended practices when dealing with an inadmissible or deportee persons and should be treated in accordance with the relevant international provisions, including the UN International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights. And we will go through a video that will explain about a deportee. This video example for chapter 5 in the subject of a deportees or deportee. This video actually shows an Sudanese man who was taken to France from UK under the international agreement, which means the migrants are sent back to the first safe European country they registered in. And you can see this man is walking out of the airplane escorted by the French officials. He's the man in the hoodie and he's trying to settle his papers in France. Chapter 6, International Airports, Facilities, and Services. This chapter mainly talks about the requirements in the facilities and service at each contracting state, in consultation with the airport operators, must provide for the convenience, security, and safety at international airports. The required facilities and services must provide an expeditious processing of passengers, crew, baggage, cargo, and mail, as well as efficient customs, immigrations, quarantine, and health border clearance. Also, the contracting state shall ensure that the facilities and services provided are flexible and capable of expansion to meet the traffic growth and increase in security requirement or other changes to support border integrity measures. In the picture example, there is an example of such facilities and services is the Immigration Automated Clearance System provided in Changi International Airport in Singapore, in which not only it provides efficient and convenient at passenger halls, but it also provides a secure immigration clearance for the passport due to its advanced biometric security systems. Chapter 7, Landing Elsewhere Than at International Airports. This chapter mainly talks about information on certain regulatory requirements and following procedure during a short stopover and no resumption of flight situation, as the public authority shall provide assistance and instruction to the pilot in command during this situation. And with that, let's have a short clip that will explain a short stopover. In this video for chapter 7, mainly talks about short stopover. In this video example, actually, we can see that the company name ATR is apparently traveling to the Washington, D.C. through a short stopover flight. And you can see that they stopped over not at the airport itself, but outside of the airport and took a bus to the location of their business meeting. Chapter 8, Facilitation Provision, covering specific subjects. This chapter discusses the recommended practice to specific subjects which are uncommon to the daily air and ground operations, but this also includes facilitation to the persons with disability, which are not uncommon but still under Chapter 8. There are some of the specific subjects that are uncommon during operations, such as human trafficking, relief flights during disaster, assistance to the aircraft accident victims, search and rescue, pandemic, emergency operations. Chapter 9, Passenger Data Exchange Systems. This chapter mainly focuses on passenger facilitation via passenger data exchange, which entails monitoring passengers or crew members' biographic data, identity, and flight information, which will be utilized for border control, and in some situations, law enforcement. These data exchange objectives are to enhance security measures, to improve clearance at border control, combat illegal migration, and other known security threats such as terrorism.